All right. Have your dinner. Do you have your dinner there?
I did, yeah. It's going to be a long night, I fear.
Yes, you should be able to get a lot of stuff done while you listen to us, okay?
Yes.
All right. I'm going to distribute some materials here.
Hi, Connor.
Hi, Suzanne. How are you?
I'm good. A little stressed. My business has gotten really busy since I got back.
Hi,
I've been having a pretty busy time, too.
You're busy at school?
Yeah.
Well, you had a lot of catching up to do. You stayed home a long time.
I guess.
Well, you're carrying 18 credits, and that's nothing to sneeze at.
You're right. Yeah, I had to get up this morning at 6. I was working on this math homework, and it was supposed to be due today, but the professor pushed the deadline back till Wednesday. And if I knew that was going to happen, I wouldn't have woken up at 6 a.m. to do it.
Well, and now you have to sit through this tonight. So it's just, we'll try and keep it interesting for you.
Yeah.
I just hope it will be short tonight.
He's throwing jokes.
Shorter than usual, I guess. The new usual is midnight.
I doubt it will be much different tonight.
Okay.
But if you doze off, nobody will know unless you're snoring.
I like my phone on mute unless I'm talking, so the line will just be dead.
All right. I just need some people to sign in here.
So, do you want to officially call her to order? Okay. Should she do that?
Who's
Connor's going to, or
Suzanne's going to chair this one?
Chair.
Okay. Oh, we have
public.
Yeah, we do have some public here. Hello.
Public.
That's fine. We're just getting started.
I would have been on time, but I found Rich wandering around 422 and had to pick him up.
I get it.
Do we sign this?
Is there a sign-in sheet?
There are 4 of us here.
I think we do.
Connor's on the phone.
Connor's on the phone.
Hello, Mr. Kurtz.
Is that Mrs. Kramer? I had a little bit of difficulty hearing.
No, Mrs. Kramer is not here this evening.
It's Mrs. Slattery.
Oh, hi, Mrs. Slattery. How are you?
Good, how are you?
All right. A little bit tired, but all right.
Okay.
Okay.
Connor there on phone.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's good. Yeah, I gave them this. I'll give them agendas. Okay. Connor, you have an agenda, correct?
Correct. I need to find it in my email.
Okay. All right, Suzanne, are you ready?
Okay.
Okay.
This is a meeting of the Daniel Boone Area School District Policy Review Committee. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Roll call is Mrs. Bites.
Here.
Mrs. Sanker. Mrs. Sanker.
Dr. Sanker, here.
Dr. Sanker. Connor Kurtz.
Here.
And Mrs. Dungan, here. Okay, we have old business. We start with old business.
I missed that. Okay. Public, it's up here. Public participation is in item 1.0.
Okay. Is there any public participation in this meeting?
No.
Not right now.
What are the procedures? Are you supposed to read them?
No, she's good. All right. All right, so we have 2 guests with us this evening, and one of them is Rich. And Connor, you're on by phone. I think,
Correct.
when we look at the old business, we had some other policies that we were going to look at, but I think right now we can always hold the first 5 policies, because I know Carol has spent a lot of time on policy 915 on community booster organizations. And because of that, I'd like to go to that, because she has spent time and a great deal of effort putting a PowerPoint together for us to look at. So Connor, with your permission, we'd like to hold the other 5 items until we get that far.
Oh, that's fine. You guys do what you need to do.
Okay,
All right, thank you.
thank you. Connor, did you get the slideshow in your email
Yes, I
from
did.
Sandy? Great. So, going through it slide by slide?
Yes, please.
It's just an overview idea of how a policy, a 915 policy, would fit into the current Boone organization. It's just one vision. It happens to match pretty well with Dr. Sanker's actual draft policy, surprisingly, because we did them independently. There's a few things we'll rectify as we go. But again, bearing in mind, this is just a draft illustration. Slide 2.
Yes.
Illustrates the typical reporting structure for the sports boosters with all the teams.
And this is the music booster.
Oh,
Yeah.
I think you're on an extra slide. Give me this one.
Okay.
Daryl, I have a question. Is this the current system or is this the proposed system? These
Proposed.
slides.
Proposed.
Okay. And I'm sorry, would you like me to hold my questions if I have any until the end of the presentation?
Sorta.
Okay. All right. I'll do
Is that okay?
Sorry.
No, that's okay. I don't want to lose you as we go either. So please do ask questions if you're lost in the way I've put this together. Currently, we've got like different teams calling themselves boosters, and some teams reporting to the boosters. So the structure and the nomenclature is all over the district, and this is an attempt to bring it all into one cohesive plan. So that's the structure that I'm envisioning, that the booster club in the middle, there's reports to the administrative representative, and overall that person ultimately reporting to the school board. Same kind of structure for a music booster club. In this case, we already have Winter Guard Percussion and Marching Band. I'm not sure if we have any others that would report to a sort of a central music booster club, where the music department head would be the administrative liaison on the district side, reporting ultimately to the school board. For the sake of discussion, we're going to reduce the terms to sports teams, the grouping, the sports central, referring to the Central Sports Booster Club, and the booster admin. In this example, we'd most likely be thinking of the facilitator, but it's not necessarily the current facilitator. Same thing with the music nomenclature. We're going to call that Central Music Booster Club Music Central. We're going to still refer to those music groups as teams. And the music booster admin is the administrative representative. The definition, by definition, a team is the coaches and the players and their families. By definition, the Central Booster Club should be a tax-exempt 501c3 corporation. It should be comprised of the families in the district. You would have a president, a board, and a bank account. It goes with a 501c3. The booster admin, again, would be the DBASD employee. As far as reporting, the teams would ultimately, you'll see the terms dropping now so that we can refer to music and sports boosters just as the Central Booster Club. And I'm not necessarily against there being 2 booster clubs, too. I'm not convinced that the music teams wouldn't also fit under just the Central Booster Club organization. But in any event, the teams report to Central. The reporting is all this is dictated on a good 915 policy. So they would ultimately, the teams themselves, the coach, the players, not the players, but the players' families, would have to get profit and loss reporting to Central at the end of their season, and then fundraising profit and losses to Central. Central has to report not only to Pennsylvania as required by their 501c4 corporation returns and requirements, but they also report to the booster administrator of all the team's P&Ls and fundraising P&Ls. They compile the PIAA forms. They complete an audit report on their books, et cetera, in preparation, in compliance with the policies for the booster admin to have in their possession. The booster administrator also is responsible to make sure we're compliant with PIAA and reports directly to principal, supervisor, ultimately school board, in some sort of chain of command there. As far as the ruling authority, then, the teams are governed by PIAA rules, which we all are. They will also have their own specific team policies and guidelines that will be written by Central. It wouldn't be, I don't see the necessity of it being written in the school's policies because they're going to be, in this vision, they would be sort of off record. As long as they're in compliance, they're off Daniel Boone School District record. The Central Booster Club, because they're functioning as their own 501c3. The Central Booster Club, though, would make sure that they were compliant, all the teams were compliant according to all Daniel Boone policies, non-discrimination, their individual policies, Title I codes, and then the state nonprofit laws. The booster admin also is governed by the DBASD policies, the non-discrimination laws, and the Title I codes. And PIAA, actually, should be on there. Purpose, let's keep things in perspective. Team's purpose is so that the students can strictly enjoy the benefits of sports, music, team play, in a fair and safe environment. We don't want them worrying about paying every little bill that comes along. That's the function of the Central Booster Club. We want the kids to start to have fun, or preserve the kids having fun in sports. The main purpose of the booster admin is to ensure Central compliance with Title I, DBASD. You're starting to see the underlying theme here. They serve as the liaison between Central and the school board, meaning that when the reports are compiled for the board to sign off on, the booster admin is a level of integrity. The report wasn't signed. You didn't give me a total. You just make sure that what we get at school board level is complete. And then the booster admin would work with the Central Boosters, who has requests from teams for equipment, for facilities, for maintenance. It's all coordinated between the booster admin, who works with the principal and the school board to formalize any kind of requests for maintenance or facility improvements. The Central Boosters' main purpose is to ensure team compliance with PIAA and their own policies. Again, they're the liaison between the admin, the school, so to speak, and the teams, ensure the integrity of the reporting requirement. The Central Booster Club, by their own definition presently on the website, is to stimulate public interest in high school events, promote school spirit within the community, and to encourage and recognize participation in the programs. So if the team has accomplished, District 1 championship, the Booster Club is responsible to make sure that they get their, trophies or their banners in the school to facilitate that. There's a process for all the requests, for all the purchases. Now, basic team functions, the teams would formulate their teams and their rosters. They recruit parent representatives to report to the Central Booster Organization, to communicate the requests. They participate in the 3 to 6 central fundraisers. They can't be required by definition, but they're encouraged for all the teams to participate in them, and to participate in their own fundraisers for team-specific purchases. The Central Booster Club will make sure that the basic needs are met. If a team wants to go above the basics, they may request that they have a fundraiser, small fundraiser for a jersey, a warm-up jersey, or something extra. And if it's accepted, if it's approved, then the team can have the team solely raises money for their own team purchase. Otherwise, the money that's raised by the 3 to 6 booster fundraisers goes into the joint booster account to be doled out according to, on an as-needed basis. Cash flow, basically, the teams have no cash responsibility. They don't have registered, bonded people. They just get the cash and send it up to Central, who does all the accounting. They make no purchases. All purchases are provided by Central. So even if they want their shirts and the shirts are approved, there's still a process there where they send the $400 they raised from their fundraiser, and then the check is actually cut by Central, thus using the buying power of a central organization, and of course the check writing authority that Central has, and the teams do not. Any extra money that would be raised would stay in the Central Booster account. Getting on Central functions for the Booster Club, they set the mission and the purpose according to 915. They maintain the bank account according to GAAP standards, and they make all the deposits and payments. They coordinate 3 to 6 annual fundraisers. They make the purchases for all the teams, and they secure bulk discounts for uniforms, spirit wear, equipment, etc. as a central purchaser. Continuing on the basic functions of the Central Booster Club, they basically provide all the consumables year to year. The things that have to be replaced every year is a given for every team. They get their balls, their socks. They might get sliding socks, or the basketball team might get, sweat bands or something. But basically what is determined to be something absolutely inherent to the success of the team that year is provided, no questions asked. Then as far as the non-consumables, the things that are balls, new balls. Well, I guess basketball gets balls every year, but maybe the rack needs to be replaced every 5 years or something. So the team would communicate that to the Central Booster Club, and the Central Booster Club would determine if that was warranted or not. Again, on basic functions, they would also provide the form so that each individual group, team, is all submitting their reports on the same forms. So when it bubbles up to the board, we're familiar with the documentation, what we're looking for, including P&Ls, deposit forms, requests for fundraisers, camp request forms, etc. And they're all available. All these templates are available online. As far as the cash flows at the Central Booster level, they collect a fee, if any. It's too early to know if this would float, if this system would float itself or not, but if there was a fee, they would collect their booster fee. They coordinate the booster-wide fundraisers, things that are running across the whole district, and maybe for a long period of time, like a 50-50 raffle or spirit wear orders and profits. I'm proposing that they get a share of the gate receipts, and that probably the district should have a share, even 50-50 probably, whatever. When they use the concession stand, they should pay the use form and get to keep all their profits of their concessions. And the district should just get, like any other user of the facility, they pay their fee and they make sure it's cleaned up appropriately. And then they too should be pursuing corporate sponsors at the Central Booster level. They hire their own coaches and recruit their own volunteers, which I think is something Dr. Zenker and I are going to talk more about.
Oh, yes, I think you're right.
They would procure their own liability insurance, which I think is also contradictory. And again, it's just discussion. They would pursue, pays for team consumables and approved non-consumables. The basic functions of the admin level, now we're sliding over to the district representation. They provide the schedules. They help make sure the reporting is comprehensive and thorough, and they facilitate purchase requests with the school board. As far as the cash flow, one of the ideas floating around out there is that the flat $25 per head per year fee to the school that the school district collects for its share of the expenses, and the admin would collect that. He or she would also be pursuing corporate sponsors. And then they would maintain the special purpose fund for the athletic maintenance and improvement fund. That's where the expenses would come come from, sort of like the special purpose fund that facilities has right now, tagged for athletics. If you got a corporate sponsor and he was willing to give you $1 million over the next 10 years to put his name on the stadium, what do you do with that money? You don't want to, it's not to end up in the general budget, and it can't be necessarily be spent that year. Everybody gets a Cadillac. So you would have a special purpose fund where that just kind of rides out for the next, for the turf expense or whatever. They procure liability insurance also, and they provide the transportation for the central admin, the school district part of it. Provide the transportation for the game. That's it. Open for comments, questions, suggestions. Dr. Sanker?
Well, I've been taking a few notes here. I have a couple of concerns. Overall, I like the model. However, there's some things that you've got to work out here. Yeah. First of all, I don't think PIAA would endorse this. Okay, because I view the Booster Club as a central repository for fundraising. They coordinate the fundraising, and they supply the extras back to the teams. I get all that. Mm-hmm. But the part here that I'm having some heartburn on is, these aren't numbers, so let me get the page. Okay. Yeah. It's the PIAA forms, the audit report. Your audit report, that'll have to be an internal audit that you do on your own. But like anything that's PIAA, that is going to have to be a function of the athletic director or facilitator, whatever this person's called, and the principal, because in the eyes of Pennsylvania Interscholastic Sports, they recognize the athletic director and the high school principal. The high school principal is head of athletics. So that piece has to come out of there and go back to where you have booster administration. That's really the AD or AT or whatever you want to do.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so that wouldn't be.
No, you can't do that.
I agree with that.
Okay. And then where it says the DBASD policies on ruling authority, this Central Booster Club is connected to the district, and we would hope that they would adhere to the policies that we put through. The Title I codes and all of that, that still has to be the responsibility of the school district. We can't delegate that over to the Central Booster Club because that's not something we have the power to delegate out. We will still be responsible for Title I. And Title I codes, what do you mean by Title I codes? Because you and I may have a different definition of that.
The non-discrimination requirements.
But when I think of Title I, I think of a pot of money that's given to kids who are having trouble with reading and math.
I think you mean Title IX.
Title IX? I think you're right. Yes, you're right. Title IX. Title IX is something that is overseen by the school district. In fact, big time. If there's ever an audit on Title IX violations, they aren't going to be auditing the Booster Club. They're going to be auditing the district. So that responsibility on Title IX codes can't be delegated over to the Booster Club. That's going to have to go back to the Booster administration. The 501c3, I get that. You're going to want to incorporate the Booster Club to be a 501c3 so that you have that authority. I get that. The other piece here, where you have over here where the teams are.
Ruling authority.
Yeah, the ruling authority. The PIAA rules and the team policies and guidelines, they won't be written by Central, okay? Central can only control the fundraising of the teams. The PIAA rules and the team policies and guidelines, there needs to be a connectivity between that group and your booster administration because it involves kids. And anytime you have kids, you have to tie those kids to the district.
Okay.
And because ultimately, if there's a discipline violation on a team or a coaching violation on a team, they have to be administered by the athletic director and the high school principal and possibly the superintendent at that point. So they have to abide by the rules, but the person who's making sure that they're abiding by the rules is going to be your AD and principal. The team policies and guidelines, again, that has to go back to the booster administration. Where the central booster would be, you guys can read them, but what you're going to be shaking out is how many times in those guidelines does it say the kids are going to have to conduct 10 fundraisers during the year in order to be on the soccer team. That's what you're looking for, because those guidelines for fundraising are going to be controlled by the Central Booster Club. But ultimately, the PIAA rules and the team policy and guidelines have to be controlled by the athletic trainer. All right? So, and don't look at a person in a role. I want you to just think of the role.
Right.
Okay? Because if you think of an athletic director as someone who's had all the proper training and education that goes into that position, then you're going to be looking at somebody who really has the presence and authority to do the job. Okay? The booster administrative, the athletic director or trainer is going to be the liaison.
Purpose.
Yeah, under purpose, excuse me.
Booster admin purpose.
Yeah, they are the liaison between the Central Booster Club and the school board. Okay? So if you have a athletic director who's doing what they're supposed to be doing and is functioning in that manner, you will have somebody who will develop that relationship with the Central Booster Club and be that facilitator that the Booster Club needs to get stuff done. I mean, I'm envisioning a very tight relationship here between these two people so that they work in tandem to get the fundraising reduced to where it needs to be and that the money's flowing back to the teams in the way it should be. Okay, and while I'm talking about this, there's something that I don't want to forget here. In my experience with this, the biggest thing I hear from the teams, the parents, is that some teams have the ability to generate more money than other teams. And if that's the case, what type of ratio will you be using to return the money to the teams? If you think that it's going to be returned in equal amounts, you're going to be hearing from the football parents who say, wait a minute, 80% of your budget that you have in the Central Booster Club is coming from our kids playing footballs and the money that's generated on Friday night. Whereas if you take the tennis team and you only have a finite number of kids who are playing there and they don't have the audience that a football team draws in, their amount of money that they can raise is minimal. So you're going to have to find a fair ratio to give back to these teams. I mean, you're going to have 45 kids on a football squad, and you're going to have 15 people on a tennis team.
Actually, I saw that as something that the families would all figure out themselves, because I'm seeing it as a delineation between them and their teams, that they would all...
Well, I would propose that the Central Booster Club, maybe with their representative, have some ideas ahead of time and present those ideas and it be developed with the representation of the team together. But If you leave it up to the teams to decide that, you'll never get consensus.
Isn't the driving force going to be the compliance, though, with
Title IX?
Title IX compliance?
That's the push that the athletic director is going to have to give. Because when they come in, when the state evaluation team comes in and says, okay, how many team rooms do we have for girls? How many team rooms do we have for boys? Do we have equal number of team rooms, locker rooms, training rooms for girls as we do for boys? That's what they're looking for. Yes, they're going to look at the amount of money we've spent on girls' uniforms and for girls' sports and boys' sports, but they're going to actually look at the facilities to make sure that you have equal facilities for your male and female athletes.
Do they have to be in proportion to the amount of male and female athletes?
No.
If you have 100 boys and 50 girls, they
No.
have the same size.
You have to have enough that's covering your, let's suppose that you have, let me go to, I'm trying to think of a winter sport that's, okay. Let's suppose for team rooms that you have girls swimming, which we don't have here, but if we had girls swimming and girls basketball, both winter sports, okay, and we only have one girls team room and we make them share it during the same season, whereas for wrestling and boys basketball, we have two separate team rooms for them during, okay, that's where you're going to get stuck, okay, in facilities.
So in a way, it is in proportion. So if you have two sports and you have one room, that's bad. If you have one sport in one room, you're okay.
But not necessarily per head.
Not per head. No, you just have to have the same number. If it's 1-to-1, it's 1-to-1. Okay?
So that would be a bone of contention as far what you're saying then, as far as trying to figure out who gets what.
And who settles that? Yeah, the athletic director. Because
really?
when the audit comes in, they're not going to audit Central Booster. They're going to audit the district and slap the hands of the district. Could be a fine in there, and it's going to be up to the district to find the means to put another team room together. You know, I'm just using that as an example. But there has to be something, like if you have a baseball field that you upgraded, and you have turf on the infield. I don't know if they're skinned. Are they skinned or not skinned?
Baseball is not skinned.
Not skinned.
Softball is skinned.
All right. I knew there was something here.
You're on it.
I'm on it. Okay. Skinned and non-skinned. I've learned some things. But anyways, you have to have the quality of your softball field and the quality of your baseball field have to be equal. If those girls are out on the softball field and it's full of rocks because it hasn't been raked out and it hasn't had enough of the dirt, but there's a term for the dirt. Terminex? Dymatex, that's it. Dymatex. If the Dymatex has only been given to the boys and not to the girls, it's true.
No, I get it. I'm just...
You got a problem.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay,
So
can I just clarify one thing? You said the sports director is the principal of the high school. Correct?
In the eyes of PIAA, the head of athletics,
Okay.
the one who gets tagged for everything, is going to be the principal, the high school principal.
Okay.
But
That comes along with the job.
it does. It comes with the job. And every high school principal knows that's part of their job.
Okay.
But a high school principal needs to function as a high school principal. But the athletic director or trainer answers to the high school principal. The high school principal should be the one doing the evaluation of the athletic director or trainer.
This is responsible.
Yes, that's the flow. All right, and then the principal should answer to the assistant superintendent, and the assistant superintendent answers to the superintendent.
I was going to have a question about the flow of, some.
Can I just make sure we got all Dr. Sanko's comments
sure,
first?
go ahead.
Almost done here. I don't mean to monopolize it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
I thought
we're
you were
very
done.
interested.
Okay. right here, and I think you clarified this later, I'm still on purpose. Between booster administration and school board, there should be 2 other boxes in there.
Yeah.
One of those should be high school principal,
Yep, I agree.
and the other should be central office, like the superintendent or
Yep.
assistant superintendent there.
Yep.
And then because the superintendent feeds the information to the
Yep,
school board.
I totally agree with that, yep. Because it was stated, but not really illustrated.
Well, I think you
Good.
did a very nice job putting this
Well, thank you.
design
You did a great
together.
job.
To get any fancier would be beyond my scope of technology here. But if you were
That's good.
actually putting this together, we'd need a few more arrows and things just to show
Definitely.
the actual flow chart on here.
Really appreciate you hacking it up like this. This is good stuff.
The cash thing is giving me heartburn too. Let's go to purpose on central booster purpose. To ensure team compliance with PIAA and team policies. If I didn't make that clear earlier, that has to be a function of the booster administration. Okay? And there was one other piece here, and that was where you said you would be, the booster group would be hiring the coaches. That can't happen. It
Can't
has
happen?
no, because they're, as a 501c3 organization, you do not want to be employing
No.
people. The employment is, the role of the school board is to hire and fire. That's one of their tasks, is to employ and then dismiss if they had to. If someone said, Patty, you have the right to hire and fire, I would say, no, I don't. That power resides exclusively with the Board of School Directors. So,
But would they have a position in recruiting or recommending?
absolutely, they can recommend someone to the athletic director, okay? But it then would be the athletic director's responsibility with the high school principal to do the interviewing and make a recommendation.
Clearances.
All of that has to go
Before
through.
you come up to school board,
Yeah,
right?
that's
It's the
a
processing.
that's a district office function.
Right.
Because remember, this group, this booster group, is not a daily functional group. I would not think that there's anyone who has in their life enough spare time that they're somewhere every day doing central booster. Because how are they going to be? Are they paid? Is it a volunteer? Who is this person?
Yeah, I thought eventually when we put the numbers together that we would see if that would be practical to be a paid position.
Well, the other thing you should think about is, because I used to have this model at my district. It used to be, all right? And there was one woman who was, passionate about it, and she ran it. She ran it for years because she had multiple kids and she was involved in sports for many years. And she was the one who made sure that all of the concession stands, that their soda was ordered, that it was stocked in the concession stands, that she did the banquets, she got the sports banquets together at the end of the year and ordered the trophies. She did all that. And it got to the point where, and it was volunteer, it was not paid. The parents said, oh, let Carol take care of it, you know.
Yeah.
And poor Carol, because she was a stay-at-home mom and had time to do this, she got saddled with a whole lot of responsibility to the point when her last child was a senior, and she said she was stepping down. And everybody knew how hard poor Carol worked. Not one soul would step up to take that over.
It's not unusual.
No, and in fact, they were waiting for Carol to quit because they wanted to go back to the model we have right now, because they never thought it was fair on how the money was distributed back to their team. And they waited and waited and waited until poor Carol was gone, and nobody stepped up to take the boosters, and it dissolved. And everybody went back for every man for himself.
Oh my goodness.
Really?
Yes, it did.
Well,
Okay.
well,
So I'm
I
just,
think
yes.
Good story.
Uh-huh.
I think
Go ahead.
Just from the outside looking in, because I've been to the sports boosters meeting, and the one thing that's very striking to me is there's definitely a trust issue out there. And what you said, our current booster, I think all of the entire board, the few of them that there are, I think they're finished, they're done, they're saying, I'm out of here, because they see this coming.
That's why I'm not
And they're
wondering if
saying,
it
"I'm
shouldn't be
getting
a
outta here."
compensated position, but I don't know if the money is there because I
And-
don't know the numbers.
Well,
So there's a little financial incentive to have somebody,
Well,
even if it's just a part-time.
that's good and bad. It's good and bad to have somebody who's paid in there. But, you almost have to have this person bonded who's going to be in this position because, just to cover everybody's butts. Because someone will swear there's money missing. Everybody will swear there's money missing. Unless you have it audited every year, and those are paid audits. I mean, somebody has to pay to have the audit done. This is like PTOs. I mean, you've seen it, PTOs with problems. It's usually money problems, and it's usually the treasurer, and it usually was loose, and they did an audit every year, and they had one person signing the checking account instead of two. All those standard operating procedures that you would think you would is good business manager, a good business practice. A lot of people who are in these positions have not worked in positions in their life where they know these good practices that we expect people to know. So, if you're going to, you may get someone to step forward to do this, but are you going to interview candidates for their business acumen or somebody who just really has a passion for it? Because if you get somebody in this job who doesn't have some good common sense on how to handle things, you could have a problem.
Can I ask a couple questions?
Sure.
We'll start with that. You just said about interviewing somebody for this job. I didn't realize that the board or the district interviewed.
You wouldn't. It would be,
So, I mean,
whoever's making this group
You lost
up.
me right there. Right?
Well,
The sports boosters select their own pay. Is that not correct?
yes.
And if I heard you correctly, you were talking about the percentage of the gate receipts. I don't believe anything goes to any of the clubs right now. I think the district keeps the gate receipts
They do.
to offset the cost to the district of the school.
Right, I understand, that's negotiable.
You're
I
correct.
thought, because they're going to be paying more of their.
Anything's negotiable,
Yeah,
but-
it was just a thought.
But
I-
what I'm thinking is
we
anything
could-
less going to the district is that much less money the district has.
Right. I think if we got a framework in place and we started plugging numbers in to see what each group's responsibilities are financially, I think it would become
Keep something
apparent
in
who
mind.
gets the gate
Keep
receipts.
something in mind, that the sports boosters are actually along the same lines as the school board. It's all volunteers. They say, we want to be sports boosters.
Yeah.
Because I heard something said about paying them. And I'm thinking, paid by whom?
That's what.
We're not going to pay them.
That's what I was suggesting. If they set themselves up as a 501c3, that their president should be paid, their board should be
Paid by whom, though?
volunteers, by themselves, by their own revenue they generate from all their 3 to 6 fundraisers a year, from
Yeah,
their
but
fees.
Suzanne, if I may, because I have like 2 or 3 more questions. But
Yeah, it's okay.
if I remember, somewhere in here, you talked about the purpose of fundraising, I thought, was for the kids. Not to start creating paid jobs for boosters.
Well, it's just the organization of how to make sure that it's done fairly and it's not dropped when a volunteer quits. It's just to ensure the integrity of the longevity of the whole program. It's something to
I
think
just
about.
think you'd be creating something that we don't need. Going back to the very beginning, that we talked about that meeting Pennsylvania requirements, which I understand are in the process of being changed.
Yeah.
At least the boosters keep telling us they're being changed. So I guess my question, and Dr. Sanko, this would be to you, can we supersede Pennsylvania requirements? Can we have additional reporting requirements for our boosters?
You can.
We can?
You can.
Okay.
There'll be a minimal
Because what I'm hearing from the boosters is that the state is going to eliminate a lot of their reporting requirements. Now, I haven't seen.
That's because there's nobody there to work it.
Yeah, right. That's something that's true. Like after this year, it changes pretty dramatically.
That's what I heard at that meeting the other night, and that's why I'm asking, is it,
Because
can we
nobody's
have
there
more
at that
requirements?
level.
They furloughed so many people to state that they can't monitor anything.
Two more quick questions.
Mm-hmm.
The fundraising. Didn't I read in the one proposal that you had gotten from the other district that the school district approves the fundraisers and the purpose of the fundraisers?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's standard on both patties. I think you have that in your
I did.
915, don't you?
I thought this model that you're showing, I thought the approval was coming from the central boosters, according to
that
this
would be-
model.
That would be them approving their own, and that's part of the conflict, I think, that exists now.
Well, but they're-
Because what I'm hearing is that certain boosters are like dominating the fundraising.
Yeah, they are.
But they have to be in compliance with the 915 policy that spells out the rules for what the teams can and can't, for doing fundraisers in season, for what the purpose of it is. All I'm saying is that if they're aware of the 915 policy, which they have to be, then they can regulate that at that level, which is oversight by the admin. It doesn't have to, everything doesn't have to come to the board.
Oh, no, I don't want it to all come to the board.
That's what
Let
I'm
me just
saying.
ask one more question,
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
because it's the last question I wrote down. Because I heard about a number. Can kids be required to participate in fundraising?
No, they can't. All you can
Because
do
I
is
thought I heard you
ask them.
saying,
Well, encouraged.
number.
Yeah, 3 to 6.
encouraged,
The Central Booster Club would sponsor, would organize 3 to 6 a year. And each teams would 3, I thought I saw 3 in the spring and 3 in the, 3 in the fall, 3 in the
My
spring.
biggest problem with fundraisers is if the parents can keep, the same parents of the athletes keep getting hit and hit and hit. We already have pay to play, so they have to pay for that. There's a proposal in here for flat $25 a head in addition for the district to administer athletics. And then we add 6 more fundraisers on top of it. Well, you might as well raise the pay to play and eliminate the fundraisers. I mean, because you can only hit the same merchants so many times. You can only hit the parents so many times.
But this would be just those 3 to 6 times. There wouldn't be a whole lot of individual fundraising being done. It would be an exception. It would be 3 to 6. There would be no pay to play, like that whole terminology goes away in this concept.
Oh,
They just register. It's akin to what the CYO organization does. Every kid pays a,
because right now we have a line item in the budget in revenue, money coming in from kids playing sports. So if you eliminate that, you're reducing revenue into the district.
right, exactly. Yep.
yeah,
But
that's
my
the bucket
proposal,
being raised.
Yeah.
my proposal is that so many of the costs would be offloaded. But see, now you just brought coaches back on. My concept was that coaches would be off books, and I guess that's not a reality. So my feeling was that the cost of the sports program would diminish precipitously, the cost to the school district end of it, so they wouldn't have to collect as much. They're not running coaching, and they're not.
I think they were talking about that at the meeting, right, the sports boosters meeting, but they're looking at the middle school, I could be wrong,
I heard that.
You're talking about the finance committee
to
meeting.
do a model to cut them loose and under Amity EC, and they would pay the coaches. So
That's, I guess, what I was
I don't
trying
want
to
to get
model
into it now,
here.
but I'm kind of like thinking now that you said what you said, I'm thinking, well, that doesn't sound like that's going to work.
So if Amity AC can't hire employees either,
Well, for
then
middle
this-
school sports, which then becomes a team sport or a club sport, essentially, rather than a district sport.
right.
If it's a club sport,
IAA versus.
yeah, it won't be a club. It won't be a PIAA sport. It would be a club sport, which at that point we have no control over.
Okay, so that's why it would work
I'm
at
not
that
sure of
level.
that. And I don't know, but Andrew last year contacted PIAA, and there was some distinction that Amity AC could take over certain sports and they could still be considered PIA teams. And
I'd have to
I
look
don't
at
know
that more
about it.
closely.
This whole model is based on them being able to hire their own personnel. So that's why the school district wouldn't need income.
Well, and if you're talking about
But
the high
if
school,
that's not-
you have to remember our teacher's contract also
Yeah.
calls
Well,
for
that's what I'm saying. If this
coaches.
was an independent organization, then they wouldn't have those same obligations. So you're reintroducing everything that my whole model, this concept was not based on. So the whole model really falls apart if they're not hiring and firing their own coaches as their own corporation capable of, just like the Red Cross nonprofit hires their own employees and manages their own payroll, and that was my vision. And schools are floating, the research shows that some schools are floating their own expenses. I don't know if
The entire load, but I think Dr. Senker nailed it. The one thing that I'm not clear on, research does show, I agree with you, that districts in pay-to-play and whatever are floating entirely on different fundraising models. A lot of them
Corporate
are centralized.
sponsors.
Corporate sponsors, individual sponsors are writing big fat checks, all kind of things going on. But I think Dr. Senker, probably what keeps it tied in is that you probably remain paying the coaches. I'm not 100% sure of that.
And what's so disconcerting right now is the model that's being used right now. Our kids are fundraising to pay the salary of our supposed volunteer coaches, which is not the way it should be. Our kids should not have to pay to have a coach.
It
Well-
totally belies the word volunteer.
Yeah, right.
Only
See, I got confused.
because they're being paid by someone else.
Well,
Because
and
the school district is paying for those kids to have
A
coaches
coach,
and
but they
assistant
need-
coaches.
but they're-
It's just that they're getting more assistant coaches.
Well, and I just don't think it should be up to the parents of the kids to have to pay for a volunteer coach. If someone's going to do it as a volunteer, they do
Word
it.
I agree
volunteer.
with you.
Well, that's the thing.
But see, your whole model confused me because I thought, based on that policy you brought down from the other school, that this was
Hazelton.
going to focus strictly on controlling the boosters clause, not changing the whole model of our sports program.
Well, I took liberty with the Hazelton model, and Dr. Senker got clarification on it. I found holes in the Hazelton model that I didn't quite understand the structure of that. So I merged it with other research and came up with what I thought was the best model. I thought that being an independent entity, 501c3 with their own reporting requirements, their own employees, their own policies, that we would have more of a hands-off approach and a financially less invested.
I'm not on the committee.
But I'm not sure I'm not sure it works anyway. So
But-
it's good
But
discussion.
I think what we need,
Close. It needs
I think what we
tweak.
need in the interim is a policy that better controls the boosters clause.
And I have
Right, I mean, we
something to
may
throw
have
out to
that. We know
What
all the
would you
problems.
think? What would you, I think we're all saying the same thing. What would you think on this model? Dr. Senker said, we're looking at this, what do we call this person, booster administration. I have a hard time with this myself, but let's think of this as what we want the person to look like. And we put all that responsibility there. It almost encompasses a good chunk of that middle person. And then we take this little bit remaining and we do a better job of training or at communicating to each team. That might help encourage participation. If each team actually had to come up with 3 representatives, and these are your responsibilities, to fill out the forms for fundraising or, to comply and understand the rules. So now you have a bunch of teams with 3 parents help, what
Running
you're
the
saying,
booster.
bringing the
Right.
information more organized. So this person here can now do a more encompassing job of so much that's missing. Does that make sense?
So basically, you're saying just refine the model that we have now.
To shift it, yeah, a little bit, and almost, I guess, eliminate, or
Yeah, I think you're on the same page
Right.
with Dr. Senker at this point.
But I guess I'm also reaching out saying, does that, based on your experience,
it may work. I really think that the school board needs to define what they're going to, what their responsibility is in the way of providing for athletics. Okay, because truly, our budget is supported by 80%. 80% of our budget comes from the residents of this community, and it's their tax dollars that are supporting this district. So we have a percentage of tax dollars. We have money coming in. We do some support for athletics. But what should that support for athletics be? I think as a board we need to look at that. Is it to maintain our fields and our facilities? Is that the one thing? Is it to always say that our kids will have uniforms, so that away and a home and away uniforms, so that it's not the responsibility of the parents to buy the uniforms? Or is it the responsibility of the board to make sure that we have equipment, that we buy the bats, the balls, the gloves, the football equipment? Because football equipment in particular, we have to buy it all at one time so that we can make sure that the helmets are of a certain quality, the padding's of a certain quality, that it meets the minimum regulations for football. So as a board, we have to decide what is our responsibility based on the tax dollars that we receive that's supposed to support the whole district. Is the entire burden of athletics now on the boosters and the parents? Or are we going to keep a small portion of it and say, we're going to take care of the facilities, we are going to take care of providing you with equipment, we're going to take care of making sure you have uniforms. Anything over and above that now becomes the responsibility of the boosters. So then there is a repository for the equipment, the uniforms. Everything that's bought by the district has to be inventoried and stored here at the district, so that we don't have small teams or groups of people storing what was bought by the school district in their garages and their basements. That all of this is, again, inventoried and quality control is kept here. But until we define that, until we say that this is going to be our responsibility, I don't know that we can task these boosters with much more, because they're buying uniforms. They are buying the balls, the bats, and things. Is that their job? So there's a discussion piece that we're not going to solve tonight.
No. Any other comments? I think we should move on.
Yeah, I think so too. I just wanted to make one comment.
Okay.
I think that Carol's idea of centralizing the boosters is a great one, because I can see that you wouldn't want to have two fundraisers going on at the same time.
Correct.
So I think there's an administration of the Boosters Club that would benefit immensely by an organization. I would think that the fundraising would have to be kept in categories, because I understand that completely. One group fights like mad to make money, and the other one doesn't. Well, you can't really support them. I mean, with money from this group. Maybe there could be 10% of what goes into a pot for the kids that can't do it or whatever. But you still have to keep it separate, and I think it was a great idea. I won't take up any more time.
I think you've done a nice job with this, Carol. It's a good start. Good start.
Yeah.
Connor, you have any comments before we move on?
Please wake up.
I do not. I think it was good that we looked at this. I'm interested in seeing maybe next meeting, like how are we going to move forward to get an actual policy together that we could pass on to the board? Like it seems like we talked a lot about what we liked tonight. How can we transform that into a policy that we can that will work?
I was thinking we would see, based on the discussion today, what Dr. Sanker would recommend. Do you have an idea, Doctor? Is that presumptuous of me?
Now, I mean, I put out my concerns. I haven't put much in the way of solutions out there, but I do think that my concern about what is the responsibility of the board with respect to athletics, I think that needs to be discussed.
Discuss first.
But Rich, I don't know how you feel about that.
I think right now athletics are the responsibility of the school and thus the responsibility of the board. To me, the boosters, they're ancillary. I mean, they're a group of volunteers that want to help raise funds to promote their children in athletics. But the athletics are still ours.
Yeah.
I mean, we haven't farmed them out to Amity AC or anybody else at this point. They're ours.
But we have people stepping up to the plate doing things that I think is our job. For example, buying uniforms when we may have perfectly good uniforms somewhere else for that same team, but the new coach decides he or she wants a new color or style.
You're right, and that's where I thought this policy was going tonight, where we were going to put the Boosters Club's responsibilities reporting to the district. That's where I thought we were going tonight.
Well, I don't think we're there yet.
No, we're not.
I think we have more work, Connor. Before we even bring a policy forward, I think our next meeting is going to be hammering out a policy.
The vision.
Yeah.
What I'd like to say, and then I want to get going because the meeting's going to start in 15 minutes, but the policy you brought down from, and I keep forgetting where it was from.
Hazelton.
Maybe there were holes in it, but I thought there was a lot of good stuff in it. As far as holding the booster clubs accountable.
Right.
And so if we just ignore the holes and use what works for us.
So why don't we all look at the Hazelton policies and the one that you wrote for us from PASBA, Dr. Sanker, and the attachments tonight?
Those were sample policies from other districts that PSBA.
It looks like you incorporated the bulk of Hazelton in them. Is that?
I did not physically do anything. I just sent those copies to you.
Okay. So Hazelton's policies are in our attachment, as are the PSBA's.
Sample policies.
Sample policies.
I'd like to jump in quickly. Before the board's transitioned, something that the policy committee was looking at, we were actually kind of fleshing out a booster policy. And I don't really have too much insight on it. It was really maybe one or two meetings they spent working on it. And of course the committee has turned over so much. I guess it's good to get some of this background information going. But I will, if the committee would like, I can reach out to Andrew Basil, who was on the committee with me prior to this iteration of the committee, and I could ask him to forward me the information that he had that the administration was working on, if that would be helpful. Would we be interested in that?
Absolutely.
And then circulate, and then next policy meeting we
look at what we have.
Try to formulate.
Okay.
And I think in preparation for the next meeting, we make sure we've read the Hazelton policy and the sample policies from PSBA and see if we can't come up with a blend of some kind.
Would it be too much to ask maybe to have a policy that we take all of our concerns into account, and maybe Dr. Sanker, if you could bring us a policy to discuss at the next meeting, as opposed to just talking about ideas, maybe because we did that tonight, if we could work everything into some language and go from there. Is that maybe taking it a step too far ahead at this point, or is that something that's reasonable?
I can attempt to get that done. Carol.
You can make some assumptions together and
bring it to committee for.
Okay, that would be really helpful in terms of just, it'll be easier to look and see what we actually want to do in Daniel Boone and discuss that. I just think that's my opinion, at least.
Yeah, that's a good plan, as long as
Great.
it's not too much
Yeah.
to ask.
I think we're short on time here.
Yeah, can we move on then?
Don't think we're going to get to much more.
No, I know.
Okay.
That's why I was going to suggest, what is the most important thing we should get to? What would you like to recommend, Dr. Sanker?
I think we stick with this one for one more meeting, this booster, and then come back and attack these other ones.
Nothing too time sensitive on those?
No.
Not
I think that
class side.
class size is okay the way it is. I just
Yeah, I don't
brought it
think
back up
there's any
to
urgency.
look at
Yeah.
it there.
Okay.
The uncompensated leave with
Yeah.
classified, that is important.
Yeah.
And
Can we
so
discuss
I'll bring
for a
that,
few minutes?
yes, I'll give you just a nutshell. Our classified employees get so many sick days and so many personal days every year. And the way it's written, it says that they also get 5 additional days unpaid if the superintendent signs off on it. But there's nothing in policy that says you must have exhausted all of your days before you ask for time off without pay. And I'm looking to add that piece of language because I've got people who are banking some of their paid days and taking unpaid leave. And- okay? And I want them to utilize their paid leave first if it qualifies for whatever they're doing, and then come to me when you're in a hardship and we'll sign off on it.
Okay.
But,
That makes sense.
Yeah, because right now they're looking at, oh, I got 5 extra days and she has to sign off on it. And the few times I've pushed back saying, wait a minute, tell me what she has left. Why do you want unpaid leave when you can take leave at paid leave? So we went back and looked, and our policy is silent on this. So we need to clean up the policy.
Okay.
I like that. Connor, do you like that idea?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that is pretty much what the committee is supposed to do, look at our policies and make sure everything is going the way it should be. So I'm glad that Dr. Sanker caught that. And again, if she wants to just, or if anybody in the administration wants to put together that wording, we can vote on it.
Actually, I think
I'll bring this back to the next meeting with the exact language. I'll give you a draft, and I'll pull that policy up and give you a draft of it, the way it should run, and make sure that Brian Subers has looked at it.
isn't that it right
Yeah,
there?
Carol has it here. Yes, it's in italics.
It's in the
Honest.
attachment on the italics
Yeah.
under the uncompensated policy. Dr.
Yeah.
Sanker's going to read it briefly.
Before an uncompensated absence will be approved by administration, accrued time off must be exhausted. If the additional leave is sick-related, all sick time, including any bank days, must be exhausted. If the leave is related to personal or educational, all vacation and personal days must be exhausted. Yeah, it's an if clause here. Personal. Okay. Sick days will not be allowed to be used for vacation or any non-sick request time off. I do have a few people who think that if you add your sick time to your vacation, it gives you more vacation time. So
I like it. I think the doctor
Yeah.
Dr. Sanker should move forward with getting Brian.
Yeah, I agree.
You okay with
It's there
that?
pretty
Yeah.
much. If
Move
Dr.
on.
Sanker just wants to type it up and it can go to a first reading,
yeah, I can do that for next meeting.
Great.
okay, I'm fine with that if we want to move that policy forward right now.
Okay.
Can we go ahead with that now? at this meeting?
No, I wanted to go to Subers first.
Subers.
Okay.
I'll send it to Brian Subers and then bring it back for the next meeting. Is that good?
That sounds great.
And nothing else we can get? No. we
Now, the rest we should spend some
should.
time
Okay,
on.
Good.
Okay?
Thank you, Doctor. Thank
Patty.
you, Patty.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Only
public
informal.
comment.
We're not formal here, are we?
Are we going to
Okay.
public comment?
Yeah, public
Yep,
comment,
public
please.
comment.
I'm sorry, the public's had a lot of comment. I apologize. I just want to say that,
Just give your name so we get
For
it
the
on
record.
recording.
yes, it's Karen Slattery.
Okay. Okay,
Diane,
go
thank
ahead,
you.
Karen.
I just want to say, in your process, if there's anything that I could do, please reach out. Feel free, email, call, anything. I'd be happy to help, that's all. And I appreciate your efforts.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, our next meeting, any more?
Oh, yeah,
comments
next
from us?
meeting? Nope.
Okay.
Really
We're good.
appreciate the
Okay.
vetting. It's thorough.
So our next meeting is scheduled for March 24th at 6 p.m. in the library. And we're ready to adjourn this meeting.
7:20.
7:20.
Yeah. Okay.
Meeting adjourned.
Okay, bathroom break, Connor. Go ahead.
All right.
Okay, we'll
Okay.
catch
Thank
up
you
with you
all.
shortly.
Back.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Good job.
All right,
Thanks,
bye.
Dr. Sanker. That was good.
Okay,
Okay.
now you want to turn that off, and then I have a question.